Okay.
Okay, everything settled?
Yes, we're live.
Right. Okay. So
And
good afternoon,
recording.
everyone. It is my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to the keynote speaker, distinguished panelists, and to each and every one of you to this online event that will address inclusion in the context of digital skills in the Caribbean. So the theme for this event's final installment of Digital Skills Taskforce webinar series is leveraging digital skills for the Caribbean's prosperity. It encapsulates the essence of all the discussions and highlights the importance of inclusion in all aspects of technology. I am Stefan Lewis, and I am joined by my colleague Karen David, and we are both members of the Digital Skills Task Force, and we will serve as your moderators this afternoon. Again, many thanks to the Caricom Secretariat, which continues to be a strong advocate for inclusion across the region and for affording us this opportunity. We also want to express our gratitude to all the individuals, organizations, and stakeholders who came together to make this event possible. Again, your presence, your active engagement, and ongoing support basically demonstrates the shared commitment to unlocking the potential of technology and developing the digital skills needed for the region's continued development. Ladies and gentlemen, digital skills is not merely technical competencies. They are tools that empower individuals, communities, and basically to participate fully into the digital society. The skills that you get enable people to access information, communicate, collaborate, and even create new economic opportunities. Therefore, our approach to development of digital skills and technology in general, it has to be inclusive. Inclusion is a fundamental principle, and the acquisition of digital skills and competencies allows everyone, regardless of age, gender, or ability, to contribute to benefit from the digital economy and society. Is a key component in securing our shared sustainable development objectives. That being said, I'm very excited to get things started. I would just like to take the time to explain some of the proceedings this afternoon. Again, well, we are joined by our keynote speaker who will enlighten us with his presentation. There would be a short Q&A with the audience, about 2 questions or so, just to allow the next segment to occur, which is the panelist discussion. I know that we kind of started a little late to get everything running. So also for that session, the panelists would be answering questions about inclusion in digital skills, and therefore time would be allotted for a Q&A segment to all panelists from the audience, right? Again, please feel free to use the chat to post any questions, and once we see them, we'd get to them and we'd ask.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for your warm introduction and contextualizing digital skills in the region. With that said, I think we could head straight into our feature presentation, and I'll actually take the opportunity right now to introduce Professor Felipe Chibas Ortiz. Professor Ortiz is an associate professor at the University of Sao Paulo. He is also the representative of the Regional Committee for Latin America and the Caribbean of UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance. He is the author of 29 books published in several languages and different countries. Welcome, Professor Ortiz. It is a pleasure to have you here with us. And without further ado, we give you the floor for your presentation on digital skills as tools for inclusion, empowering individuals and communities. Welcome, Dr. Ortiz.
Thank you so much for your kindest words. Greetings, everyone. With these opening words, I want to welcome everyone, of course, especially our organizers of this event, Caricom, speakers, and Dr. Paul Hector from UNESCO. Also the members of UNESCO Media Alliance, professors, intellectuals, activists, and every audience present here. this person who contribute in their countries in the practice, the transformation of the spaces in the Caribbean using mail approach. I am really happy to be here. Let me share some slides with you. My presentation, the title of my presentation is The Future of Digital Skills in the Caribbean Prosperity from the Perspective of Media and Information Literacy. In the second slide, we can see the agenda. This my purpose with this meeting. Think about the challenge involved in developing skills to study and work in the digital space of the Caribbean, and of course, we speak too about the practice. Think of some solution and proposal for this challenge from the approach of mill and mill cities, showing their current usefulness for the prosperity of the Caribbean. And of course, show some tools, solutions, and good practice from Latin America and the Caribbean. We share this information and knowledge with you. Let's continue, please. In the second, technology and skills. This is a paradigm or a question too. According Aristoteles, aptekne, this word is in Greek. Technology is something inferior to episteme or knowledge. Technology is a know-how to do, right? But right now, nowadays, technology today, according to Norbert Wiener, is a coded cyborg or a hybrid of technology and the human body. Do you see? We can see here the change in the visions of the technology. We can do with this vision, the last vision, many changes. Let's continue, please. Cities today, this point is very important. The artificial intelligence and life in 2030 report released by Stanford University investigates 8 areas of human activity through which artificial intelligence technology are beginning to affect urban life, something that will become increasingly subtle and deep by 2030. In this moment, 2030, we got the singularity moment. In this time, where human being and the machines are met indefinitely. Let's go, please. Oh, according to Global Entrepreneurship Monitor in your Youth Entrepreneurship in the Caribbean Region report, we got here the young people like to work in your own business. Let's see, Barbados, Colombia, Trinidad and Tobago, Caribbean in general, 97 points, or never say percentage, like run your own business. This point is very important because the students don't like it to work in other projects, in other kind of works. They like our own business, the own entrepreneurship. Let's go. The starting point, we got here a very important point, the starting point in 2023. This event, Internet for Trust, in the for the UNESCO, talk about every these points with the clear form and with many stakeholders. let's go. Bon. Translate these slides from Divina Frau Makes, Professor Divina Frau Makes. It's the important to understanding the transliteracy and media and information literacy. She speak about three cultures of information. A new digital reality require demand according to her. We need critical thinking for citizenship culture. We need research, publications, navigation, navigation culture, and we need to data protection. This culture with creativity and participation are very important. The integration of these three frameworks or these 3 points is very important to transliteracy and the understanding the culture and the moment nowadays. Please. We got here too. Sorry. We got micro and small enterprise play a crucial role in reaching the objective of the economic development strategies of many Caribbean countries. We need a special attention for micro or small and medium-sized enterprise. Let's go. But what are the challenges of the Caribbean reaching prosperity, the professionals inserting themselves into the market? Second, my approach or MIL approach, media and information literacy approach. In my opinion, the challenges are carry out new diagnosis with numbers and statistics for each country, greater investment in new technologies and artificial intelligence, developing a more entrepreneurial education, learn other languages such as Spanish, of course, develop new digital skills and learn new professions of your own in web ecosystems. Respect and value the national culture of each country to open new business. The next, please. The next, okay. One solution, the solution, or one solution is not the unique solution, but it's a one solution. Media and information literacy, no. But what is media and information literacy? Media and information literacy is considered a combined set of skills, but also a practical convergence where journalists, information specialists, libraries, educators, among others, and their related activities meet. This definition, this concept is important, of course, because today we thinking about networks of the 5 agents of innovation: governments, companies, educators, artists, and the simple citizen. With this network, we got the principal factors and the principal formulation to strategies to change. Let's continue, please. Media and information literacy, this approach also promotes cultural and linguistic diversity and the balance of joint actions is very important, this point too. And of course, we got here transcending cultural barriers in communication. Yes? Let's go. MIL approach has been inserted in the vision of the 2030 agenda, especially the objective quality education, reduced inequalities, and sustainable cities and communities. Let's go. Key media and information literacy skills or competencies, critical thinking, and creative thinking. These two skills are the principal or the key of the core of the competence of MIL competence. Of course, we need in these networks to expand this this critical thinking and creativity thinking. Yes. In the next point, let's continue, please. It's very interesting too, this other approach, digital competence and skills. Of course, the competence, the male competence, are in the space, in the physical space and the digital space too. But the digital competence and skills have a specific aspects. Competence is more subjective and personal, while skills is something more practical and tangible, the competence. But in this way, is this stroke the third side of specific skills that we develop the competence. Competence and skills have a dialectic relation. Let's continue. But what are these male competence? But in the curriculum UNESCO 2022, we got seven special competence. For example, understanding the role of information media and digital communications in sustainable development and democracy, understanding the content and its uses, access information effectively and efficiently, and practice ethics and others. But these male competence have other specific competence. I show you in the next slide. More specific male competence according to UNESCO curriculum. Well, we got here 20 specific competence. These competence are the base of the curriculum. I will mention something. For example, evaluate critically, ethical use of information, creativity and digital entrepreneurship, use ICT critically, video games, respond to hate speech. This point is very important. We have now many hate speech, post-truth, and deepfakes, and we need to respond of this. Connect education with other actors in the city. This point is very important too, the 20 point or 20 competence, because we got the need of integration of all stakeholders. In the next slide, we got the new digital professions. For example, big data analyst, social media, growth hacker. This point is very important to entrepreneurship, to young people. They need in the Caribbean. They need to appropriate of these new digital professions and to study and to practice in this line. In the next slide, we got this question. What are the most important digital skills for companies? Digital skills for companies are data analysis, digital communication, digital leaderships. It's necessary more women in digital leadership. In the digital leadership, we got many men, but we need more digital leaders, women in this point. Cybersecurity notions, interaction with tools, and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence today is the point, people. Artificial intelligence is the integration and the principal challenge of the Caribbean in this line to the entrepreneurship, in my opinion. Let's go. We got this research. The coordinator of this research with artificial intelligence. This research with Sebastian Novovinsky and Efraim Pantaleon and our team. We did a pilot with 420 teachers that allowed use to develop a metric system to evaluate meal competence, these 20 meal competence. And with this evaluation with in artificial intelligence, the principal issue was only 32 of teachers use video games in their class, and 34 have never used it. This we is very concerned this point, because this point talk about our teachers don't use the new technologies. Our teachers don't use games. Our teachers don't use the artificial intelligence in their class. Let's continue. Well, let's show something, some best practice. The first is the UNESCO Transcult program, training for young Caribbean people in cultural entrepreneurship. This program is with financial, but the European Union. The Transculture program integrates Cuba, Caribbean, and the European Union for culture and creativity, implemented by UNESCO and financed by European Union. This program includes days management course for 200 young people from the Caribbean with experience in the cultural and creative industries. This experience is very successful, and I recommend to study this experience. The another, please. Best practice: teacher training in digital skill. This is other program. The Regional Office of Education for Latin American and Caribbean and the technology company Huawei from China signed a roadmap that will directly benefit teachers in the region, starting with a pilot in Chile. What is the idea? The principal idea is training in digital skill to work with gamings, to work with artificial intelligence, to work with big data. These professors, and of course in the class and all the class too. Let's continue, please. Other best practice is the Caribbean Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. TPF is working with the Secretariat of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States on the development of a specific set of entrepreneurial learning activities that bring together existing Caribbean and European entrepreneurial expertise and good practice proposal from through the two regions, and develop any necessary actions to fill any gaps that have been found. Let's continue. But what is the key competence of entrepreneurship? A key competence of entrepreneurship is an individual's ability to turn ideas into action, into includes creativity, innovation, and risk-taking, as well as the ability to plan and manage projects in order to achieve objectives. This competence, in my opinion, this key competence of entrepreneurship with the competence, the meal competence integrated, are the key, or are the way to the solution of many problems in the Caribbean. Let's go. Best practice. a network of committee. This point is very important too. An important element of the initiative is the creation of a network of committee policy makers and experts working together in identifying and disseminating useful examples. We need in this work the presence of the five agents of the innovation: policymakers, educators, artists, of course, the entrepreneurs, and of course, too, the simple citizen. The simple citizen is the beginning, the truth, and the final purpose of our efforts. Let's continue, please. But what is a Mill City? Mill City is or Media and Information Literacy Cities is a framework developed by UNESCO, our urban space that can use artificial intelligence and other new technologies, both with ethics, respect for diversities, organic empowerment, education, critical and creative thinking, valuing ecology and sustainable way, new affectivity, combating misinformation, fake news, deep fakes, and the post-truth. This framework has synergies or includes others such as sustainable cities, smart cities, healthy cities, educational cities, creative cities, innovative cities. Mill cities is very important point to develop and to transform the Caribbean region, in my opinion, too. Let's go. We got here some tools to work in the Caribbean. For example, this book, Navigating the Infodemic with Mill, is support. We can use this. Excuse me. We can use this book like a guide to transform educative space in the Caribbean. Let's go. Let's continue, please. We got here other books. This book is fruit of the discipline Post-Human Diversities, Ethics, and Paradigm of UNESCO Mill Cities. And we works in these books with authors of 20 countries at the 5 continents. And but the focus is Latin America and Caribbean. The title of this book is Media and Information Literacy Series, Indicators, Metrics, and Cases. Let's continue, please. International Innovation Center for Development of Cities with Media and Information Literacy in the University of São Paulo. We developed in the city of São Paulo, together with the University of São Paulo, government of São Paulo, private companies, and the support of UNESCO and other universities from different countries of this center, International Innovation Center for the Development of Cities with Media and Information Literacy in the vision or on the UNESCO's vision. This center will bring together network of researchers, professors, students, entrepreneurs, and activists from Brazil and the other countries interested in developing media and information literacy cities. We, of course, need the support of the Caribbean countries in this effort. Let's go. Let's continue, please. We suggest this document to read. These documents are very important because they have guidelines for the transformation of the cities and the financial resource for this transformation. Guidelines for the regulation of digital platforms and global conference, and router of the Secretary General of the United Nations for Digital Cooperation. These 2 documents speak about the future, the tendency. It's very important to read these 2 documents. I recommend so much. Please, the next. My conclusion is summarizing to promote prosperity in the Caribbean through an entrepreneurial education seems to be necessary to teach the meal competence of the UNESCO curriculum together with other digital skills that are now demanded by companies in the new hybrid reality. We need to share this knowledge with networks of the 5 agents of innovation from around the Caribbean: governments, companies, educators, artists, and the common citizen. Male and Male Cities approach helps to transcend cultural barriers to communication, looking for integrate different kind of person, communities, and countries with clear objective, integrating them into the UNESCO Male Network. The next, please. The next. Well, my last words is the words of Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, on the occasion of the World Press Freedom. She says, UNESCO has implemented the Windhoek 30 Declaration by promoting new transparency principles for online platforms conducting research on sustainable business model for the media and paying particular attention to media and information literacy in education systems. But that's my last word. I feel very well to share my ideas here, and thank you so much for your attention and your patience with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ortiz, for your presentation. It was very, very interesting. As said in the chat, a lot of the participants think that is very, very interesting. I have a question, but I would allow the audience to get their questions in first. About 2 questions very quickly, because we are very cognizant of the time. So members of the audience, if you could either type your question in the chat or you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, in the chat.
Just give a few minutes.
Thank you, Professor. My nuggets to take any way a wayland implement in Caricom countries. Oh, thank you so much.
So, yes. So we have a question from Lynn Williams. Are young entrepreneurs obtaining higher education simultaneously with starting their businesses or bypassing higher learning to start focus on their business?
In my opinion, these 2 points are integrated. We need, of course, the higher education, but we need the entrepreneurial education. It's not the similar thing. It's different. And we need the integration, these 2 points and 2 lines in the now and in the future more. Without nowadays the new technologies and the new ecosystems, hybrid ecosystems, virtual, digital, and of course the physical ecosystems needs this integration. We don't live in physical space, only in physical space. We don't live only in the digital space. We need to understand this new reality, but with ethics, with the innovation, social innovation vision, very important too. Of course, it's not the world is not only me or only you. The world is more than this. We need the integration, the knowledge, the political knowledge, the democratic knowledge about democracy, about this vision, ethical vision, with the competence, meal competence, and the entrepreneurial competence, with the basic knowledge.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ortiz. I have one more question from the audience. From Nicole. How is racism in AI being addressed in your institution?
Repeat again, please.
How
I
is
don't see this
racism?
question.
Yes, it's in the question, it's in the webinar chat. Yes, so, but basically what they're asking is if racism would be addressed at all in AI, or does it have an aspect to prevent racism in the AI?
But where or I don't understand the question.
I think
No,
Nicole provided some background in the chat as well. So she said Dr. Ortiz in 2018, MIT student Joy Buolamwini, sorry if I butchered her last name, wrote about her experience discovering that facial recognition algorithms in her lab used all over the world couldn't detect Black faces. She even had to wear a white mask to get the computer to recognize her as a person. So how is racism in AI being addressed by your institution? Why should people of African descent invest in what some might consider to be a racist technology?
Yeah. We got some institutions about this. We got, I said, I speak about the University of São Paulo and the ISICMEL, and we got other institutions. We got, they have interest to develop to a new vision, this new vision. We need to respect to diversities. Diversities, for example, diversities in the religions, diversities in the ethnics, diversities in the corporal and physical diversities. And in this line, we got to develop research, diagnosis, and of course, efforts to contribute in each country according the cultural matrix of each country, according the cultural matrix of each country. For the Caribbean, in my opinion, for the Caribbean, this approach is very, very important because in the Caribbean, we got many islands, for example, with different cultures. We got in Barbados, a very rich culture. In Jamaica, very rich culture. In Tobago, we got many difference, but these difference are the richness. But we need the work together of all institutions, in my opinion, the academic institutions, the entrepreneurial institutions, and we need the transformed education. We need a new education with focus in the skills to do. Skill is good, of course. It's good, it's very good. The philosophy, for example, I like so much the philosophy, but we need this effort, practices for effort with the 5 agents of the innovation social of the 5 agents of Mill Cities.
Thank you very much, Professor Ortiz. I hope that answers Nicole Cole's question. So in the interest of time, we'd like to move on to the panelists. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Ortiz, for your presentation and answering your questions. All right.
Thank you, Professor Ortiz. I actually think some of the points made in his final statement are actually a great stepping stone to introduce our fellow and upcoming panelists. So Without much ado, we'll head straight into our second session. So I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome our panelists. First up, we have Ms. Carrie-Ann Eiffel. I'll actually go ahead and share the screen as well. Ms. Carrie-Ann Eiffel has spent numerous years as a strong advocate for persons with disabilities in Barbados and across the region. In 2008, Carrie-Ann was appointed to the Senate of Barbados and subsequently elected to serve as the Deputy President of the Senate. She was later appointed as President of the Senate, an office that she held until May 2018. She is also President of the Caribbean Council for the Blind and Chairperson of the Advisory Panel on Disabilities for Caricom. Welcome, Ms. Eiffel. It is a pleasure to have you here with us. Next up, we have Ms. Sandra Yorkums. Ms. Sandra Yorkums is the Managing Director and Proprietor of the Comprehensive Learning Center, a defined learning space for the children and young adults of North Hill and the surrounding villages in Anguilla. She recognizes the innumerable benefits of lifelong learning through a holistic approach, and it is through this recognition that successful real-life programs such as the Over 60s Computer Cell Phone Combo and Know Your Community Elders were created. Welcome, Ms. Gums. We are glad to have you here with us today. And last, but certainly not the least, we have Ms. Tyronda Knowles-Glinton. Ms. Knowles-Glinton is currently the Director of HRS and Compliance at Atlantis, Bahamas. Previously, she served as project manager and business analyst at the Department of Transformation and Digitization, where she led several digitization projects in public service. In 2019, she decided to create an avenue to showcase the opportunities in the STEM and create her non-profit organization, FemSTEM Bahamas. The organization's mission is to expose, educate, and empower girls about the opportunities in STEM. Most recently, she was appointed as co-chair for the Caricom Secretariat Girls in ICT and Youth in Single ICT Space Committee. Welcome, Ms. Glinton. Thank you for joining us today. A warm welcome to our panelists once again.
Thank you very much, Karen, for the wonderful introductions of our panelists. Again, thank you all for being here. We know you have a wealth of experience that we would love to hear from. I know the audience is shaking in their seats just as I am. We would like to start with a general question to all the panelists, just to break the ice. Right? And the question is, in your opinion, what does digital inclusion mean and why is it important for individuals and communities? We can start with Ms. Eiffel. You can start with Ms. Eiffel.
Good afternoon, Caricom colleagues. Thank you very much. What does digital inclusion mean to me? It means exactly what inclusion means, starting with persons in mind and not using us as an add-on. What do I mean by that? I mean, when I'm using, there are several apps that are developed across the border. Sorry, that's my phone yakking away. And it is extremely distressing how few Caribbean-related applications, documents are designed with accessibility in mind. Picture, I turn up for a meeting and I'm sitting in the meeting and they start passing out hard copy. And the person looks at me and says, "Oh dear, we don't have it in Braille." I say, "Send it to me electronically." They send it electronically and I still can't access it. There is accessibility checkers built into Microsoft Office, into Google applications. These are things that can be checked before they're shared. Why wait until after? And that's just one small example of digital exclusion. Let's not even talk about apps and programs, but I'll leave those for later in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eiffel. And please, members of the audience, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get around to answering them as well. Right? Next up, we would love to hear from Ms. Noel Clinton.
All right, thank you so much. So what digital inclusion means to me. So according to the ITU, it is estimated that tens of millions of future jobs will require more advanced skills, such as encoding, software and app development, network management, and so much more. So in order for us in this region to be able, in the small island development states, to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, we must be skilled, we need to be upskilled, and more importantly, we need to be aware of these opportunities that exist. And so for me, digital inclusion is to make sure, or it includes upskilling our people in the requisite skills in order for us to participate in these job markets and to benefit economically. Additionally, for women in these areas, a lot of times we are excluded for a number of reasons. And so making sure that women, young women, older women, teenage mothers are aware of these skills and also have access to it. In order for us to provide access to it, we need to have the skill set, people who are skilled educators trained enough to be able to share the skill set with these groups of individuals so that we'll be able to partake in this industry, not only locally in our region, but abroad as well, to be hopefully to be able to export our skill sets outside of our region. So digital inclusion to me, as stated by the previous speaker or panelist, is including everybody, starting with inclusion first and ensuring that we have the tools necessary in order for us to be equipped to be able to take advantage of it. So yeah.
Very well said. Thank you very much. We'd like to go on to Mrs. Sandra Yorgums.
Yes, good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Digital inclusion. My focus is greatly on those persons who are seniors in our community, those persons who have so much to contribute to this community, to the region, the entire region. But the thought that because a person is older, that they do not understand how to use the technology creates that problem of exclusion. And therefore, we have to make sure that the tools are available to all, that the access, just accessing, is available to every single person. Whereas our young people in many of the areas of the region have the access, our older folks, out of fear at times, they do not have the access, but it is for us now who understand to encourage them to be part of that understanding how digital inclusion is going to make them prosper, how it is going to make the region better, how it is going to make families better. And therefore, for me, that digital inclusion is making sure from the little tiny tot, because the babies are now understanding how to use the technology, to the person who is even 100 years old, as long as he or she is willing to be able to access that digital space.
Thank you, Ms. Yorkums. I actually want to bring Ms. Eiffel back into the conversation right away because when she said apps and programs, I kind of got an idea about the fact that she might have a bird's eye view perspective as president of the Caribbean Council of the Blind. I want to ask, so we've seen smartphones, and you mentioned your computer as well being a great assistive device for visually impaired persons and persons with disabilities. So I just wanted to find out, what has the access and uptake of these devices, as well as the apps and the programs, been like for persons in Barbados as well as across the region in terms of affordability? And can you speak more towards what are the types of apps and programs that are currently assisting individuals within the region?
I think the other panelists will need to speak sometime today, so I'll try to keep my answers brief. But the uptake has been tremendous. You can't know how liberating it is to be able to do your own bill payments, your own searches, your own information gathering. It is absolutely life transforming, the amount of access that the smartphones and the tablets and the computers have given to persons living with disabilities, and specifically the blind and visually impaired, as you mentioned, the Caribbean Council for the Blind. The challenge, however, is, as I said earlier, lack of inclusive design in a lot of ways. Only today, I think it was, I received notification from one of our service providers in Barbados telling us about the fantastic new upgrades that they've done to their self-service system. Click here, it said, and then nothing, because they're all graphical links. So my screen reader cannot deal with those. What have the apps done? Online banking is one of the most transformative experiences for us, because there are very few countries in the Caribbean. I believe Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica may be the only two that have ATMs, whatever you wish to call them, machines that are at minimum accessible to persons who are blind and visually impaired. The other ones are not. That person just asking you to enter your secret number and so on does not make an ATM accessible. What is accessible are the ATMs where I can plug in my headset and hear the instructions of what is going on the screen. Where the screen goes black and nobody standing behind me can see what's going on, but I can access my own information and do my own work. So online banking, the learning management systems, Canvas, Google Classroom, and those have given digitization to access to educational material. Of course, when teachers or instructors take pictures of poorly lighted material and upload the pictures as your reading material, that does create challenges. But if they use clean and clear programs and layouts, when documents are produced digitally in the first place and those are uploaded, it's amazing what access we can do. I completed a postgraduate diploma with our local teacher training college. It started in the heart of COVID lockdown and it ended towards the end of that. You know what was fantastic about that? I completed 7 courses. 99% of the work was done online. This is not a boast, it's just the reality. I graduated most outstanding student and I had not one piece of paper to deal with. It was completely and totally accessible for me. The challenge, however, is financial outlay. A screen reader, the most popular screen reader in the world is JAWS for Windows, and it retails around $1,100 US. That is outside of the reach of most persons who are blind and visually impaired, most persons who live on fixed incomes. There is an alternative which is gaining popularity, NVDA, non-visual display access. The challenge with that, though it is free, you are encouraged to make donations, and anybody who does use it, I would encourage you to make a donation, even small, $10, it doesn't matter. The challenge, however, is that because JAWS has a bigger financial base, there is more training material available out there for us. So when you need to work in school environments and job environments, the truth is that the JAWS program has more accessible information in order to be used in the workplace. There are, of course, Apple has their built-in screen readers, but the iPhone is a luxury item. It's one of the more expensive. But the things that the iPhone and the higher end Androids, because Androids do have access to this as well. The challenge is all Android devices are not created equal. And because of that, the lower end ones, the more cost effective ones, they don't come with the screen readers pre-installed, so you still need assistance. They don't come, and the other technologies making it more accessible to persons with other kinds of disabilities are not as responsive as they are on the higher end Androids or on the Apple ecosystem. So that in a nutshell is it. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. It was truly insightful, very informative.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eiffel. I would also like to bring Ms. Knowles Glinton into the conversation. I know you spoke about upskilling for women so they would have opportunities, and I just wanted to know from your position as the co-chair of the Caricom Secretariat Girls in ICT, what initiatives or strategies have proven effective in promoting digital inclusion amongst women and girls in the Caribbean region?
Well, when I was a part of the committee, a lot of the things included incentivizing the young people to be a part of it. So that included like cadet corps programs, as well as Girls in ICT. They partnered with different Caribbean regions to host these different webinars and seminars to make them aware of the opportunities that exist in fields such as ICT. Locally, what we notice work, especially with our organization, is involving young people and girls as a part of the solution to a problem. So we have them actively involved in, first of all, identifying problems that exist in country, and then finding a solution to that problem using technology. I think with young people, as Professor Artez said already, they have a more entrepreneurial mindset. And so if we can tie it in not only to them solving a problem, but how they can monetize solving that problem, we have better buy-in. Also, it's breaking stereotypes. A lot of times, you know, as young women, they think these careers are only specific to men. But once we prove to them and show to them that there is a space for them in this industry and their voices should and needs to be heard, they are more involved. And I see that it works very well as well. Obviously, as young women too, they are more fascinated a lot of times in things such as the beauty industry. So we also tie it into day-to-day tasks or day-to-day items that they are involved in now. So for example, we show them that, hey, you watch TikTok, but the person who generates TikTok, and also you spoke about media, how you can monetize through social media platforms, but also search engine optimization. How is that going to work with technology? How is that boosting your page? So we tie it into real world skills that they have already used or consumed as like a social pastime, but making them to know that there's a skill set that is tied to that and you can monetize it as well. So that is how we see it works, and it benefits them and us really in the region in the long run. I just want to add that the Bahamas too is on board as well with banking and the ATM using tools to allow, you know, the visually impaired to be able to access. So like Ms. Eiffel said, the headsets as well. So I wanted to add that as well. But it is important to consider all of these groupings, even now in my capacity as in a human resource space, ensuring that our employees are also able to access it, access devices regardless of whatever their current situation is, whether they're literate or not. We need to make sure to incorporate this as a part of our change management when we are incorporating new technologies. So we see the full gamut of how it's important and why it's important for us to upskill in these areas. So yeah.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Clinton.
Thank you so much for that. So I think it was also it really was very insightful. And I want to go right ahead and bring Ms. Gomes into discussion one time. And it's actually concerning the platform that we're also using at the moment. So with regards to older persons, I know since the pandemic, there has been this transition to using collaborative tools like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So Ms. Gomes, we just wanted to find out, what has the uptake been like for older persons with regards to have they adapted to this new transition? We kind of want to get an idea about how have they been experiencing and what have their views been of these collaborative platforms.
Well, for the senior citizens, the Zoom, they had to work on Zoom. They had to really come to par with that kind of programming, with that platform, because at that point in time, with the problems, the pandemic problem that was existing, that was their means, their key means of interaction. You still have some level of fear, which is understandable, as it's not something that they're accustomed to. So it is actually getting to know the technology, and now they have gotten accustomed to using their cell phones, the iPad, and now we are saying to them, come, you have to come on, there's something called Zoom, right? And it's like a new set of learning teams, and the number of times that they have to click. But one of the things that we have found, if we can help them, the approach, if you can give them the right approach, where we give them that level of comfort, where we give them that level of understanding and helping them to realize, look, there are benefits that will be derived from your involvement, from your understanding, from your usage, that has made it much more worth the while. And so from that end, I would say we have had a more willingness, the willingness to be on the different platforms, because if the approach that is used, if they understand that it is going to be helpful for them, then they would be involved. Okay.
Thank you so much. I think comfort is definitely something that we need to look at, regardless of whatever marginalized group we may represent. I think comfort must be priority in terms of interacting with devices. So thank you so much for that response. So in the chat right now, I saw that there's questions on reducing import tax on technology. And I think that's something that Nicole said, and then Ian John, he mentioned, as governments across the region pursue digital transformation strategies, how do we ensure that they include inclusion by design and not after the fact? So I actually want to go back to Ms. Eiffel one time, because I know I asked her something from the perspective of being the president for the Caribbean Council for the Blind. But now I have the opportunity to ask her, having been the president of the Senate, from a policy maker perspective, what has been done by governments with regards to inclusion for persons with disabilities, and what needs to be done? How do we close that gap?
Well, the first thing is the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has been ratified by all of the Caricom member states. All 13 have now ratified, and that was a definite positive step in the right direction. Several of the countries, Guyana, the Bahamas, Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda, all have enacted legislation with regards to persons with disabilities. Other countries, Barbados included, have draft legislation, which is currently being put before cabinet and other places before it comes into force. And they have done, and within these contexts, they do address various ways the need for digital inclusion. So that's a positive step. On a more policy level, you're seeing more reference to persons with disabilities, accessibility needs when it comes to certain things. Especially, I can speak most fulsomely to what is happening here in Barbados, and that is to say that you're seeing persons with disabilities being more included, more talked about in public spaces, and being consulted as recent as this year with the launch of our new currency. I think it was late December actually last year. It was specifically designed with tactile features in mind, just as the Eastern Caribbean currency had done some time ago on the Trinidad and Tobago currencies. So those kinds of things have signaled. What do we need to do, though, is another question. And that is, and since this is a conversation specifically to digital inclusion, I'll stay to that area because I could go on about it. And that is, we need to have a more detailed outlined policy across the board on what we are committing to when it comes to digital inclusion. When I go to a website for Caricom or for a government agency, I should be able to access it readily as a person with a disability. Information is power, we've always been told. I can't tell you how upsetting it is that I can read CNN, I can read all kinds of international news, but when it comes to regional news, I have to set up with poorly constructed, mediocre attempts to include. I am tired of reading digital newspapers that are not accessible, and they tell me, read the full article in today's whatever the paper may be. It is distressing and disturbing. Those are the kinds of things. So we need policy that addresses that these are the basic minimum standards that we will accept, that we will provide, whatever it is. Those are the kinds of things. Someone mentioned about import duties and taxes. Those now in Barbados some time ago, government removed duty taxes on computers, and that's fantastic. But we need that on a broader range of inclusive tools for persons with disabilities, and not just in one country or territory, but across the board, so that people can move freely between the islands and share their information. Lastly, I'll speak to the Treaty of Marrakesh. The Treaty of Marrakesh gives access to the printed word. It's a copyright treaty, and it allows for, it's a double indemnity type thing. If I ratify and you ratify, then we can freely share material between us. It lets us get access to accessible materials without having to go through the burdensome task of contacting the copyright holders. More countries in the Caribbean need to ratify that. We do the CXC, CSEC exams. I'm old school, so I still say CXC. We do the CSEC exams across the board in many of the territories. It would be wonderful if a student in Antigua could readily share an accessible form of a textbook with a student in St. Vincent, and vice versa. That content produced by authors out of Guyana can be readily shared with countries around the Caribbean, so that not just textbooks, but our cultural content, we have shared cultures and shared heritages. But when it comes to sharing our material, it's not as easy for those of us who live with disabilities. So those are some of the policies that we need to look to across the board.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are definitely excellent points, as Nicole mentioned. I think as you said, it's not only those policies won't only apply to blind persons, but also other persons who have a wide extent of other disabilities as well. I think we'd like to probably move on to Ms. Clinton, probably bring her into the conversation as well one time.
Yes, so Ms. Clinton, we'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm not in a capacity to speak on behalf of the government of the Bahamas anymore, but I can tell you what I did at my previous place of employment in the capacity of project manager and business analyst. So a lot of what we do is try to establish business requirements. And in that whole process is understanding the users who are involved. So creating user stories. And even with the government launching its digital platform called My Gateway, we look at the different variables, the different citizenry who would be impacted, and that would include persons who have disability. There is still room to improve in that area. And as Ms. Eiffel said, I totally agree with all of the suggestions, talking about implementing or ensuring that policies are in place so that we are mandated to ensure that we include those persons with disabilities. But as a part of our requirements, we do look at all citizenry and those user groups to ensure that we develop requirements for the developers to be able to access those different groups. So I'll stop there again, because I don't have the capacity to speak on it anymore, but that is some of the actions we took to ensure that everybody who's going to be using government services, because it is for all citizens to be able to benefit from.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clinton. We also want to bring into the conversation Professor Ortiz. We would love to hear your take on this question as well. Professor?
I'm here. I listen to you. Please. We got
Yes.
another question. What
Yeah.
is the
So
question, please?
yeah. So Ian John said, or he asked rather, as governments across the region pursue digital transformation strategies, how do we ensure they include inclusion by design and not after the fact?
I like the of this question, and I like to respond this question and other question too. The question of Nicole Cole about the racism, and she tell me why should people of African descent invest in racist technology, AI? I like to respond these two questions. Well, in my opinion, it's necessary to transcend the cultural barriers to communication in with the people of the Caribbean people, with us. The world got many barriers, and we need strategies, policies, and tools to transcend this situation. We got a methodology. The name is 20 cultural barriers to communication and five dimensions of creativity. This tool or this instrument is a good for the diagnosis of the situation of each country and each organization and each social place. For example, it's an instrument to the change and political instruments. In my opinion, we need these tools, these instruments to transform our situation, our people too. And in my opinion, it's important in this line to construct the integration of the factors. The solutions is very complex solution. It's not simple solution. Each country have different situations and different resources, financial resource, different communication resource. But we need to do this diagnostic. And with this diagnostic and prognostic, we got to change the actual situation. And artificial intelligence is now at this moment we got many examples from Google, from Twitter, from Instagram, Reels, and others. We got many examples for racism in these social digital medias. But we need to know the algorithm to change the situation. We need to know about the programmation to develop programs, and we need in the startups and the basic or digital enterprise with technological basis. We need women in this enterprise. We need Black people in this enterprise, because the developers are the people with cultural barriers to communication in the head, and we need change the developer and the leadership of this enterprise. We need people like you, Nicole, like me, like all of us in this enterprise. And we need to change the artificial intelligence. We can do that. And we need, for that, of course, the presence of the governments, the international organisms like UNESCO, like UN. We need this presence. And our presence is the principal change in the our cities, in our societies, in the world. That's my opinion. And we need to the balance, of course, in the price, in the political, in the presence, the balance and the presence of the minorities or the vulnerable groups, like women, like us, like of course disability people, elderly people, of course too, young people. We got the change the scenario, and with this chance, with this change, we can do new countries, new cities. The change of the vision change everything. Believe me, we see that in many spaces, in many cities, and we need that change in the Caribbean too. When we got people, leaderships, the leaderships of these new people, these vulnerable people, we can do, or we can change the algorithms and the enterprise and the reality too, physical and digital reality.
Thank you very much, Professor Ortiz. I totally agree with you. We can be the change. Totally agree with you. At this point, we'd want to bring in Ms. Gomes. Ms. Gomes, my question for you today. Yeah, so I just wanted to know that digital skills programs usually target persons who are in primary schools, secondary schools. You know, I really wanted to know what targeted programs or policies do you envision to close the gap of inclusion for the older adults?
Okay. Well, one of the first things, as I indicated, there must be that interest coming from the older persons, and there must be interest coming from the community as a whole. The older persons, they have access to quite a bit of technology here in Anguilla. But one of the key things is that fear. There is that element of fear. And we have to ensure that whatever we do to get them more involved, it is going to be from a standpoint of comfort, as I have said before. We have to make sure that whatever it is, that it feels inviting. Whatever space is created there must be an inviting space. They do not want to be, a lot of the older folks in their learning, they do not want to be with a lot of the young people at the moment, because we know how our younger folks will operate. They are going full speed, and then the seniors cannot keep up with them. It's the same issue that they would have at home with their children and grandchildren. They are willing to show them, but they are not willing to take the time to go through step by step with them. So a space like what the Comprehensive Learning Center has created, where they can come, the over 60s, they can come in a very relaxed atmosphere, and they can learn. That to me is one of the most important things that could happen. And so once they feel that comfort, then they are able to move ahead. Whatever policies you put in place, everything has to be done in a developmental stage. You can't go and force it on them and make them feel overwhelmed. Very, very important not to make them feel like that. And if the approach that is taken is in that developmental stage where they can see their way through, in my mind, for my dealing with them, it becomes a very acceptable process for them. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gomes. Just to further the question, because I know you mentioned the Comprehensive Learning Center. I just wanted to know, what challenges have you faced over the years in crafting the Comprehensive Learning Center as a space for learning for older people? What challenges have you faced?
Well, the first thing from the time you say learning, it's like, oh, I'm 80 years old. I don't know that I want to go, you know. So this is why I'm mentioning straight that comfort. Your approach has to be one where they recognize that, look, this is not like going back to school. This is a place where you can socialize. So that's the big thing. This is a place where you can meet new people, where you can share ideas, where the people are at the same level with you. And so you are really like working in partnership, the same age, similar ages. For us, we have had persons who are up to 85 years in the program and comfortable. But the approach, we have to make sure that that approach, so one of the key challenges will be the older persons beginning to think, well, I don't want to start to have to learn anything again. I don't want to have to be dealing with any kind of technology over and over because it was not in my younger days. I do not know it. I don't want to be saddled with it. So it is to get them to move from that point to the point where you know that the technology is going to be a plus for their lives. Okay?
Yes, and I think that it'll happen slowly but surely. Slowly but surely, we'll get there.
It has to be incremental. We have to take our time. We have to encourage them. We have to make them feel that it is going to be worth the while. Otherwise, it's a no.
Yeah, so you should make it fun for them as well. As I saw someone
So
say
it's
in
a
the chat.
lot of fun. We have to make it fun.
Exactly, exactly. Totally agree with you, Ms. Combs. So
Yes,
as we're watching the time, oh,
100%
sorry, go ahead,
agree.
Carol.
No, I was just saying I 100% agree, and we actually have some comments in the chat. One from Simone Joseph Oliver. I agree with Ms. Combs. When older adults are among their peers, when they would feel more comfortable in the learning experience with the technology. I think we should make learning fun for them. They may accept and appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. So I know Stefan was a bit concerned about the time since we kind of trying to stay on track. So I think we open on the floor, right, Stefan, for there's a hand up.
Yes, so
Yes.
you can. Mr. Reynolds, you can have the floor. I'm seeing your hand up.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say in my capacity as co-chair of the working group of the Digital Skills Task Force, how pleased I am that we could have this webinar and to thank everybody. I was just checking to see if co-chair Samuels was on the platform since I have to break away now. I wanted to make 2 quick points. I certainly endorse everything that has been said. And I want to flag 2 things on the larger global platform, which I think are important for us. First of all, there's going to be a declaration on digital equity. And this is an opportunity, if you haven't either as individuals or your various groups, to file your inputs for that. Just Google it. You'll see it on the webpage. And then very, very importantly, in 2024, there's going to be a summit of the futures. Ladies and gentlemen, AI, we can safely say what we know about AI is nothing compared with the potential and actually the current reality of AI. And therefore, I think although we have engaged with it as a region, as individuals, as peoples in our part of the world, I think it's imperative that we speak to our governments, our representatives at these global fora about all that we have been discussing here, all the ramifications and the implications. And it's not just for access, it's about agriculture, it's about banking, it's about extractive industry, it's about health, it's about education. In other words, it's every aspect of our lives. So thank you very much again. I'm sorry that I have to break away. I've just WhatsApped Miss Britton, so she knows that I'm going to break away, and to thank you all again and say that I endorse everything that has been said. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for those words, Ms. Reynolds. Thank you very much. Right, so we are, again, a little pressed for time. I would really like to hear one last statement from all the panelists by posting it as a question. Right? Karen, I think you can ask the question.
Sure. So in a one-line statement, how can digital skills contribute to the economic empowerment and job creation, particularly for marginalized groups? I'd like to start off with our main speaker, Professor Ortiz. Professor Ortiz, you're on mute.
Sorry, sorry. The competence and skills are fundamental to contribute to the change and to the best economical life for everyone. Of course, the education and entrepreneurial education transform the life of the people, groups, neighborhoods, or cities. And this kind of education with focus in entrepreneurship is something different, because the focus is not how, but know how to do, right? It's knowledge, but knowledge to transform. And we speak now in this conference, in this session, about the digital skills with the middle skills, the integration of the two different kinds of the skills and competence. With this integration, we got access to the banks, for example, we access to international organizations like UN or like UNESCO and others, OEA, for example, international banks, or others, financial resource. And in the digital world, we got sites, we got platforms with other vision and other form to monetizing our presence in the internet. We got a new professions, for example. We got a new forms to approach to the merchandise, and this form, this way, show a new forms to relations with the market and with the society. And in my opinion, this point, with the cultural context of each country, we can construct the response, or the real world, or the real way for our proposals, our highlights and forms to introduce this form to think in the practice. But pay attention, is necessary the diagnosis of all stakeholders. Pay attention to this. And in each country is different stakeholders and different framework. The framework is different in each country, and these points, cultural points, or cultural vision, is essential.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. We'd love to hear from Ms. Eiffel next.
Yes. The monetizing of digital inclusion for persons with disabilities. Let me just say, one of the things that we learned through COVID is how accessible remote working is. That opens up a market for persons who have various challenges that impact their access to work. It allows you to work from home, work from remote locations that may be more accessible to persons with a variety of needs, to work with equipment that was designed with accessibility in mind. It can create jobs in a variety of ways. So many companies have begun servicing online clientele. So many companies have started offering delivery services and other kinds of programs. That opens up job creation. Persons with disabilities can work in that for and those platforms. And it also provides opportunities for us to more readily access. Again, I use examples to illustrate. During the pandemic, our local hospital in Barbados offered their dispensary services online. You could go online, choose your medication, and it would be delivered to your home. It meant that the person who lived alone as a person with a disability no longer had to struggle with finding transportation, finding a colleague, finding someone to support and assist. They can do that. They can do those things for themselves if they have access to the tools that they need to do it. Alternatively, to give them access to that is to provide financial support. Through things like that, persons with disabilities can now work for themselves to earn the money to be able to assist with supported environments to purchase these kinds of items, to give them back some of their own self-determination. And that is my final word on what job creation can do for persons with disabilities through digital access.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eiffel. So we'll go straight ahead to Ms. Clinton for the final word.
Yes, so George Washington Carver once says, education is the key that unlocks the golden door to freedom. And it's without a shadow of a doubt that access to digital skills will provide us in this region with all of the freedom we need in order for us to not only be financially sound, but also for us to innovate and not only be consumers of technology, but also producers of technology. I'm hopeful that through our continued conversation and collaboration that and upskilling in these areas of technology, specifically in digital growth, that we are able to not only prepare our people to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in the digital space, but also to share it, to export it in order for us to continue to grow in our respective countries and collaborate together. It is also a quote that says technology is best used once it combines and collaborate with people, or once we collaborate with each other. And I'm hopeful that in our region, as we continue to grow, to establish policy and legislation to create our own digital assets, that we are able to collaborate across the region to continue to be the best region in the world. So that's my view. So yeah, I'd like to end with that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clinton. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to get the final word from Ms. Combs.
Yes, so as our older adults realize their success in using the digital skills, they too can encourage their peers. And when there is that recognition that, you know, we can achieve what we set out to do, then their peers in turn will be willing to actually try to use what they have, whatever is available to them. I'm seeing it from the standpoint that they can have access to their banking, because that is one of the key things that you often find the older folks are saying, I don't want to do anything online with any credit card because for fear of someone stealing. But if the peers would tell them that, okay, well, We used online access. We were able to access our funds, etc. We were able to sell something online, and that created some funds for the charity we support or for ourselves personally. If they have that assurance from their peers, I think that in itself would be a big encouragement, and they could see economic growth from that, and they could also see that satisfaction among themselves, that regardless of their age, that they too can contribute to their country. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Combs. And I actually take the opportunity to ask Stefan. Stefan, what, as a moderator, what stood out to you in this presentation from these brilliant panelists and speakers?
To be honest, what Ms. Eiffel said about having detailed policy with regards to digital inclusion, that really stood out to me the most. You know, and even when she was answering the question that Mr. Ian posed with regards to digital tax, and talking about how in Barbados, I believe she said, how they removed digital tax but made them accessible. But she wants them to make it. She wants them to make it very accessible for all in the region, to incorporate everyone, to have easier flow of people through the region. That really was it for me. What about you, Karen?
I 100% agree with you. I think I constantly come back to Ms. Combs' statements about comfort, and I think she definitely sort of cemented the idea that empowerment comes through just being comfortable, you know, especially as Ms. Eiffel and Ms. Clinton also said, empowerment comes from being considered, being financially considered, being considered through education. So I think that definitely stood out to me this afternoon. Thanks so much again, speakers. Thank you so much.
And Karen, if I could just see, I also see some really nice things in the chat. Ms. Shelley Ann Clark-Hines said, we are a global environment, and Co-Chair Reynolds has reminded us of the need to ensure that we participate actively in those processes and ensure that Caribbean perspectives, interests are not just heard, but factored in the outcomes and decision. I'm thinking that she's speaking about in the international arena, in that Ms. Reynolds was speaking about. Also, Nicole Cole, I believe this was in response to Ms. Eiffel. She was saying that Guyana introduced telemedicine to help reach patients. She also said that education is the greatest weapon and no one can change the world, from a quote from Nelson Mandela. Yes. I am also seeing a post from Anna Maria Batiste. She says, thank you for all for speaking. We definitely need to put more things in place to make our seniors feel more comfortable and included. Very, very important point. I'm also seeing that Ms. Lynn Williams' takeaways were the awareness to recognize opportunities for inclusion for all, and education, that education is empowering, that leads to prosperity long term. Yes, and I agree with all these points on the chat.
I think there's one more comment from Michelle Young Clark-Hines. She said, excellent webinar. Thanks to the panelists and the keynote speakers for providing us with a wealth of information and ensuring that we hear from diverse voices. Exactly. Technology for all must include inclusion.
Correct.
And Gabrielle Johnson saying the webinar was highly informative and provided valuable insights and knowledge on digital inclusion. So she says, thank you. So once again, we'd like to thank all our panelists. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. Thank you, Ms. Carrie-Ann Eiffel, Ms. Clinton, Ms. Gomes. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and have this discussion with us.
And again, thank you to all the questions and all the audience itself who posed the wonderful questions to the panelists.
Karen
so
and
much for
Stefan,
having
I'm
us.
not sure if you're hearing me. Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to say on behalf of the Caricom Secretariat and the task force, thank you to all our moderators, Dr. Bristol, Mr. John, and especially to you two who are becoming, I guess, the spotlights for regional moderation in our space, because we've had you before and you were very good. So thank you again. Thank you, incredible. Special thanks to the incredible speakers we had today and in the other webinars. I think that we are in a good place in the region in terms of the thoughts and the thought leaders who are emerging in this area, and we continue to ask them to stay in the space as we work as a digital task force to doing the final report and actually implementing that report. We've had a lot of rich material come out of the webinars and the consultations last year. I won't give a lot of those points, but I think the golden thread was that we need to bring digital into people's lives in a way that benefits them. And so we continue to do that as a task force, and as we continue to work on digital skills as a Caricom region. We hope that this is the last in a series of 3, and we hope that it is spark some food for thought for persons who listened and participated, so that they can go back into their spaces and networks at member state level and organization level and start the discussion, so that when we do come to craft regional strategy for digital skills, that we have all the input we need and can continue to draw on the panelists and other persons who are in the audience. So I also want to thank especially the small working group in the Digital Skills Task Force, Simone Joseph, Winona Lawrence, Paul Hector, and Natalie, for their hard work in pulling these 3 webinars off in 3 or 4 months, and particularly also to UNESCO for really reaching out and finding some high-level speakers for our webinars, and for using their platform in this meaningful way to bring us all together across the region. If I've forgotten anybody, it is purely my omission, and you can blame me and write me tomorrow, but I thank everybody who's been involved marginally, fully, frontally, for helping us to bring this webinar series off, and we look forward to your continued support as we craft strategies for digital inclusion in the region in all sectors. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you to Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Simone. Hi, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, everyone,
Take
and
care.
yeah, I look
Thank you so
forward to
much.
collaborate,
Thank you so
continue to
much.
collaborate. Thank you,
Thank you so
Felipe.
much, Dr.
All
Paul.
right. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Simone. Thank you so
All
much,
right then.
everyone.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Hugs.
Oh,
Hugs.
yeah. Hugs.
You guys did good.
Thank you, Simone.
You guys did very, very good. Oh, wait, we have people still on the call.